Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, welcome. My name is Amanda, and if you do not know, I have three beautiful, healthy children. Ariel, that's 9, Bubby, we call him Bubby, his name is Robert the third, and he is 3, and then we have Christian that is almost 2 in September. Today I am talking about my experience with postpartum blues, I guess you would say. I'm actually pretty nervous about this video. I don't know why. I'm pretty much an open book. I don't really shy down from, these topics like with friends or family, but for some reason, I guess because I'm just, putting it out there for everyone to see, it's a little like nerve-wracking. But the reason I'm talking about this subject is because motherhood's pretty much my life. I feel like if I'm gonna go in on this subject, it needs to be the truth, it needs to be full on, it needs to be deep, and I hope that somebody watching can relate, and that's my goal out of this, that I can just bring more light to this subject and that it doesn't have to be such a secret what we go through after we have our babies. Some women luckily don't have this issue and don't have this problem and have never experienced like postpartum blues, or I think what's also known as PPD, I think, but unfortunately I did, and I can honestly say that I'm at a point in my life where I can talk about it. Honestly, if it was like a year ago or more, I pretty much wouldn't be comfortable talking about the subject, because at that point in time, I was still going through it. Let's just get right into the video. I can only speak for my experience. I cannot speak for anyone else's, what they have gone through. So this is just my experience. This is not what happens to every single mom that gives birth, but it did happen to me. So therefore, I want to talk about it to, hopefully just give someone out there hope that's watching. You honestly never know what someone's going through, and hopefully this can help someone not feel alone and just feel like we all go through it, and most of us go through it. We just don't talk about it. Rewind a little bit to when I had Ariel. I was 20 years old when I had her, and great pregnancy. I luckily did not experience postpartum blues with her, but honestly, Ariel was the best baby and I had the best experience with her. Fast forward to 6 years later, we decided to start trying to get pregnant. So trying for baby number 2 took us about 2.5 years. Did not expect that at all. I had 2 or 3 miscarriages trying for Bubby. I wanted him so bad. And I think it was the stress of trying. It became like a job to try and conceive, rather than just, letting it happen naturally. We bought our home. Right when we moved in, I found out I was pregnant. And it was honestly the best pregnancy. We found out it was a boy. I had wanted a boy. He wanted a boy. Everything was good. So I had Bubby January 2nd, 2016. We brought him home, and right away I knew that he just wasn't an Ariel. Not that I was comparing kids, but it's kind of hard not to compare when you just have one and then you have another one and you think that, she started sleeping through the night at like 5 or 6 weeks, and she just, she didn't cry, she didn't fuss very much, and she was just perfect, like I said. And then I had Bubby, and don't get me wrong, I was head over heels for him, in love with this baby, but he was just a very, very active, fussy baby, and probably didn't start sleeping through the night till he was like almost 1. Postpartum blues started when Bubby was about a month old, about 3 or 4 weeks, and I just started crying every day, all the time. I started experiencing well, I didn't really know back then, but I get anxiety. It was getting to be really bad, to the point where I would cry. I would cry when my husband would leave to work. I remember there was this one day where Bubby wouldn't stop crying, and he had to be like a month and a half, and my husband was getting ready for work, and Ariel was probably playing here around the house. I couldn't get him to stop crying, and I just kind of gave up, and I went into my closet, and I was kind of embarrassed that I didn't want my husband to see, because I'm a very strong person, and I don't like anybody to really see me weak, or that I can't handle a situation, or I can't do it. And I didn't want him to see. I don't know why, looking back now, I was, it was that way, but it just, at the time it was. And I went into my closet, and I closed my door, and I just sat there, and I just started crying, and so scared. So scared, like, to where I didn't want to go back out there, and I didn't want to take care of him. And I remember my husband saying, do you want me to call your mom? Do you want me to call your sister? And I think he ended up calling my sister without me knowing, because she told me a little bit later. But I said no. I said no. I was like, I'll be fine. I don't know what's wrong with me. And he's like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you in here? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know why I feel scared. My anxiety got worse. At this point, I still didn't know what postpartum depression was. I mean, I think I've heard of it. I think, but never in a million years did I think I would experience it. I don't know why, but I just didn't think, no, I don't have it. Like, it's not a thing. The first time he told me that I needed to go, like, seek that type of help, I just felt like crazy. I felt sick. I felt like something was wrong with me. I felt like I was a failure, pretty much, because I never went through this with Ariel. And we tried 2.5 years for this little boy, and I can't handle it. Like, I'm crying. I'm scared. I don't want him. I can't be by myself with him. I love the crap out of him. Like, don't get me wrong. But my anxiety was so bad that even if somebody asked me what was wrong, how could I help? Like, I wouldn't have an answer for them. Like, I didn't know what I was experiencing. I didn't know what I was going through. Fast forward to Bubby turns a year. Things are getting better. Life is getting better. I honestly feel like my anxiety is getting better. By the time he turned a year, things were good. I enrolled back in school because I'm trying to finish my degree. I'm going very, very part-time right now because, it's hard when you're working and you have 3 kids and all of that. We always knew we wanted a third child, but we never ever thought that it would be as soon as we did. I thought after Bubby, because it took us so long to have him and for us to conceive him, I thought, I think I'm gonna give my body a rest because, I don't want to have a birth control. I'm obviously not that fertile. And I relied solely on the app. I don't know what you call it, like the period tracker, ovulation tracker. So when I would ovulate, I just wouldn't have sex. And that's how we did it for a full year. And it worked great up until either Bubby's first birthday party or New Year's Eve. And let me just tell you, I was in class and I felt super sick all of a sudden. So I took a pregnancy test and it came back positive. I just remember crying and telling Robert, like, I don't want this baby. And as crazy as that sounds right now, and as crazy as, anyone that's watching is probably gonna say, that was something selfish to say, or that was, like, how could you? That's a blessing. There's people that try every day for kids and that aren't able to have them. I 100% get it and I understand it. And now looking back, I hate that I reacted that way, but that's just how I felt at the time. And if I'm gonna be honest, then I'm going to be completely honest with you. I just knew how hard that year was. There's just so much that nobody knew. I just remember my husband saying, all right, we're going to have a third baby. I don't think that I could do it. Like, I don't think that I can have this baby. And he said, it's your body, and I'm nobody to tell you what to do with it. But just know that the way we got through this last year, we'll get through another year. I think when he said that, it made me feel 100 times better about the situation. And the more that I really thought about it, weighed everything out. Yes, I had goals, but in the end, I just didn't have the heart. Like, I didn't have the heart to go through with not keeping him. I just knew that God's going to be with me, and he's going to, like, we're going to be fine. From that day to about, say, 7 or 8 months ago were the hardest almost 2 years of my life. I had horrible sickness, morning sickness, not even morning sickness. I threw up in the morning. I threw up in the evening. I threw up in the middle of the night. I threw up all day long. I could not hold anything down. Throughout that time that I had my morning sickness, I probably had it for about 5 months of the pregnancy. Something changed, and I honestly still don't know what it is, because from my understanding, postpartum is what happens after the baby. And I don't know if I went into like resentment mode, or if I went into angry mode, if I just had hate and frustration, and I never really vocalized it. And maybe I should have, but I kept so much in, and I almost resented my husband, first of all, for a long time. For 2 years, almost 2 years, we had it was very, very rough. Let me just put it like that. And I'm only sharing this part of the pregnancy because I just want to kind of give you guys in detail kind of how, my postpartum, what caused it. I feel like what, kind of in full detail on how it happened. And I feel like it just wouldn't make sense if I went straight to right after I had him. I don't want to scare anyone that is pregnant that this is going to happen to you and you're going to get sick, because I know many women that don't have morning sickness at all. Like, I didn't have it with my first pregnancy, really. But I did with Christian. So I just want to let you know and put that out there, that every pregnancy is different. Every body is different. So what I went through is not what you're going to go through, but it's possible. This is just what happened to me. And I just want to put that out there because I don't want to scare anyone that is pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant, or just had a baby. Don't watch this video and just assume that this stuff is going to happen to you, and you're going to have issues with your husband, and you're going to have issues with yourself, and you're going to cry. That's not the case. I'm just, again, sharing my experience and sharing what I went through and how I, kind of got over it. So back to my morning sickness. Within that time, I was a very, very angry person. And I'm not an angry person. That sounds weird to say, but I'm usually a very, very positive, outgoing, happy, always thinking about the positive side of things. I feel like during that time, I would just wake up and it just wasn't me. I was just angry. Anything he would say to me, probably because I wanted to puke my brains out every 5 seconds. It's nothing that I was, that he needed to take personal, but he was taking it personal. and he hated the person I was becoming, and I hated the person I was becoming, honestly. And I had all this resentment built up, and I just wasn't sharing it. So every day, as the days went on, I got more frustrated and more hate, and I just felt disgusted. I just felt like I wanted to be left alone. It started wearing down on my marriage, and this is where it got really hard. I feel like we had a disconnect for sure. We seeked help. We, went to counseling. Counseling doesn't mean that your marriage is going to end. It just means that you notice that there's, you guys are having issues, and maybe you can't communicate those issues between yourself. So sometimes there needs to be a third person to get involved. Anyways, I had Mr. Christian, September 16th, 2017. Sorry, I have 3 kids, so I gotta remember like 3 different birthdays. He was the cutest little bitty thing I've ever seen. When he was born, he weighed 7 pounds, like 3 ounces, I think. But he ended up having to be in the NICU for, I think, almost 2 weeks or a week and a half. I don't know. His oxygen level was always like a little lower. So, and he had like a really fast heart rate. So he had to just stay in there, and he had a little bit of jaundice. So within the 2 weeks or the week and a half that he was in the NICU, those were hard 2 weeks for me. I remember Robert stayed with me in the hospital for, the 3 days that you're usually there. And then they discharge you. And then my insurance ended up, when they told us he had to pay, when they told me he had to stay for another day in the NICU, my insurance actually paid, let us stay another night for free. And Robert stayed with me. But then the next day they said that he had to stay another day, and my insurance wasn't going to cover it, but we could pay out of pocket to stay on the NICU level. I kind of like say it's like a hotel, because you get to stay in like a hospital room, but there's no nurses you can call on, kind of like you do when you're, postpartum, when you just gave birth. If you need like a pad or you need some water, you can call the nurse, and she's in and out. I mean, obviously I could go home, but I was having a huge anxiety attack about leaving him. And I'm sure any mom that's watching this probably feels my pain. They don't want to leave their babies, but I had 2 other ones at home, and it was just, it's like I have 2 other babies that I miss over here, but I have my baby that I just had right now, and you don't know what's going on with him, and you just want to like watch over him and protect him, because you don't want anybody to hurt him. And you feel like if you go home, you're just like not that you're a bad mom, but like you just had him, you know what I mean? And I think leaving him was like the hardest thing I ever had to do. And I honestly give it to any mom that has to leave their kid in there for months at a time. He stayed in there a week and a half or 2, and it was like the hardest thing. So after that night, Robert couldn't stay with me in the room because it was a very tiny room, and I was so scared to be in that room by myself, because I was at the end of the hallway, and I mean, I just gave birth. I could barely walk, and I just was crying non-stop crying. I'm not joking. When him and Ariel left the hospital, I cried, and he said, I need to go home, and I need to take care of the other 2 kids. And I mean, I knew that he had to, but I just didn't want to be by myself, and I just wanted help. And I was just in a strange place, and I look back, and I can probably say like there wasn't something to cry about, but that's what I feel like you do. Like, that's just what I was doing, and I was crying, and I couldn't tell you why. It wasn't even like you know, like a huge reason, I feel like, looking back now, you know. But at that point, you know, your hormones are so out of whack and up and down, and you just literally look like a crazy person because you're crying over the smallest things. And I would, like, Bubby would FaceTime me, and I literally just was sobbing, like sobbing, crying, because I had already been without him for like 5 days, and the NICU with him the entire time I was there. And they still weren't giving us a date that he was going to be released. So I decided to go home because I just wasn't sure when they were going to let him go. And when I went home, and this is just to kind of give you like an idea of what I, you know, just the symptoms I was having. For instance, we were having dinner, I remember one night. Me, Robert, Bubby, and Ariel was looking at my food just like this. Like, I just, like, staring at my food without me realizing it, I guess. And Robert said, what's wrong with you? And I said, why? And he said, you've been staring at your food for like, I don't know what he said, like the longest. And like, I remember having no emotion whatsoever. I remember, like, I couldn't laugh. It almost hurt to laugh. Like, it's crazy, but I'm just trying to explain, like, how, you know, how it felt. I feel like it's still hard to explain, but these are, you know, just the best way I can explain it. It was just, it felt like it hurt to laugh. Like, Bubby could have did something Bubby would do that would usually crack me up, but during that time, you couldn't make me laugh. You couldn't really make me talk, because if I did talk, I'd probably just start crying. Somebody would say Christian's name and I'd just start crying. I would go in his room, his nursery was done, and Christian was in there, and I would just start crying. And I was just a crybaby all day long. And I feel like in another situation, my husband would have been very supportive. Like when I had Bubby, he was very supportive, but I felt like when I had Christian and we just had a really bad I had a bad pregnancy and I wasn't myself. Not putting it all on me. Like, obviously he could have been better about trying to understand where I was coming from, or trying to, you know, I think our communication was off. So when I still wasn't the same after I had him, I think in his head he thought, okay, you already had the baby, so what's the problem, and why are you still crying? And I just, you know, and we weren't connecting, and it was just frustrating because I know that I love him and I know that he loves me, but every time he asked me what was wrong or why are you crying, I couldn't tell him. Like, I didn't know the problem. I didn't know the issue. I just had so much going on. I was tired, and I just missed my baby, and I just wanted my babies, all my babies together. You can't tell somebody that just had birth, like, you're overreacting or you shouldn't be crying over that, because you just can't help it. So I want to let you know, or whoever's watching, or whoever needs to hear this, that when you do feel that way, or when you do feel like you want to cry but you are embarrassed, or you don't know why you're crying and you're confused, so you feel weird, or you feel like, I can't share this with anyone because they're going to think that I'm off, or that I'm, you know, something's, you know, not all there. Like, I don't know. Whatever you may feel, just know that most of us go through it. Like, it's a normal thing. We just gave birth. Our hormones are everywhere. We're breastfeeding. We're bleeding everywhere. Milk is dripping out. Like, most of us, you know, are just trying to survive on an everyday basis, especially when you have other little ones that you have to take care of, you know? And I feel like, and when your husband doesn't like support you or understand where you're coming from, that it makes you feel even worse. So if there is any men watching, or husbands, or I don't know, support your wife and support what she's going through. And you may not understand what she's going through, but chances are she doesn't even understand what she's going through. And I wish that there were more classes or something, I feel like, boyfriends and husbands can go to, kind of breaks it down and prepares them for if your wife starts to, act a little different, support her. And I'm not sitting here saying that Christian did that. I don't ever want him to feel like he did that. It was something that I was going through and something that I didn't know how to come out of. And it took me about 1.5 years to realize that I had a problem. And so sorry, I got a little sidetracked. I have a feeling this video is going to be very long, and I hope I cover everything that I wanted to cover. After Christian got released, we came home, and I was happy that all my kids were together. But even though they were, I still wasn't me, and I still wasn't, Amanda pre-baby. And with getting no sleep at night, and then having to wake up at 6 or 7 in the morning to get Ariel ready for school, and then having a toddler you have to get in the car to take her to school because your husband works. Doing that for months at a time is exhausting, and I just want to be, completely honest. And it wasn't until I felt like our marriage was getting a little worse. Not that there was an issue. Well, obviously the issue was the communication, but there wasn't anything that happened to be in this place with him other than, I think, my hate and my resentment for him started when I got pregnant, and it led to during my pregnancy, it led after my pregnancy. And until it got down to where we knew we had an issue and we knew we needed to take care of it, is when I realized I had a problem, and it wasn't completely him. I think at the end of the day, we know that we both love each other, and we know that we don't want to give up on each other. We also knew that there was a disconnect, and I think he knew that there was something bothering me that I wasn't talking about, and we just knew we had an issue. We knew we had to do something about it. So fast forward to a couple months ago, earlier this year, I went on a women's retreat, and it's something that he kept on telling me to go, and me not wanting to leave my kids for 4 days, me not knowing anything about this retreat. But it's honestly the best thing that has ever happened to me, and I can say that truly from the bottom of my heart. It has changed my marriage. It has changed my life. It has changed the person that I was. I am back to my old self. Like, I can truly say I am pretty much there. And I lost myself within that time. And I think when your kids are so little and like you have them back to back like I did, well, the boys at least, it just becomes, I feel like that time frame becomes a blur, and you just are so wrapped up in, motherhood, honestly, that you don't even know what day it is. You don't sleep, you don't function right, you can't go to dinner with your friends and go to lunch and do everything that you used to do. And you feel, especially when you're not working. I went from working a 9 to 5 since I was 16 years old to not working and to not having a social life outside of this house, that it just, all of that put a damper on me. It just, I didn't know who I was anymore. I was talking to newborn babies all day. I was talking to toddlers, and I felt like I didn't have anything that I was doing for me. I would never, ever, ever take back what I've gone through, and I just want to make that clear. As much as I complained about being pregnant, and I was scared, and I didn't think I could do it, I got through it. I survived, and I'm here and I can talk about it. This retreat saved me, period. And it really just put everything into perspective and what is really important, and that these times with your kids are gonna, like, fly by before you know it. Like, I feel like I just had him yesterday, and he's gonna be 2 in September. And I love my kids more than anything. And I know that sounds very cliche and very just mom, but seriously, they are my world. They are my everything. They are what I am here for. And I would do it all over again. Morning sickness and all, I would do it all over again because I'm obsessed with them. I am obsessed with my kids, and they are seriously, like, I was just made for them, and they were made for me. I can now say, you know, me and my husband are on a very good path. You know, we're obviously not perfect. I don't want to be perfect. I don't want to have the perfect marriage because that would stress me out. But we are good, and we've learned so many ways to communicate better. And, you know, I think when he actually went to the men's retreat, and I think that was very good for him to go to. So if you want, I can leave some information about the retreat if you're interested. I just want to let you know that this is completely normal. This is what motherhood's all about. It's about the good, and it's about the bad, and it's about the good days and the stressful days and the sleepless nights. They may not know what went on, but you have those memories. You have every little piece of them. So I asked on Instagram to ask me your questions about postpartum. And I should have made myself a little bit more clear, but that's fine. We're going to go over the questions anyways. And I should have said postpartum, like, depression or postpartum anxiety. Okay, so first I just want to kind of go over, I did some research like online because I just kind of want to give you guys just a few facts about postpartum. The exact cause is unknown. Some of these factors are hormone levels that rise in your body gradually during pregnancy and then drop significantly after birth. 1 in 9 moms suffer from postpartum depression, also known PPD. Affect any mom regardless of the age or how many kids she has or the amount of income she makes. It really doesn't discriminate. It's honestly, if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, then you don't. All right, so let's jump in the questions. Martin Craven, did you feel less attention after you had the baby from your loved ones? Loved ones, if I'm correct, he means like either immediate family or my husband, I'm guessing. I don't know. But did I feel less attention? If we're talking about my husband, yes. Not so much after Bubby, but when we were going through the patch after Christian, yes. Next question from Sandra. What did you do to make the other 2 little ones not feel left out or to the side? So someone actually told me, I don't know who, I think it was this older lady at Sephora. I don't know, random, but I remember she was telling me, I had all 3 of them with me. Anyway, I remember her saying, always remember to give the older kids more attention because the newborns obviously don't need too much attention. You know, when they're just born, they obviously just eat, shit, and sleep, to be blunt with you. I can say Bubby, it took Bubby a while to get adjusted to Christian. It took Bubby a couple months. I would say not until he was like 6 months, honestly. Less than that, maybe like 4 or 5 months, to where he really started to like enjoy Christian. But honestly, when he came home from the hospital, he wouldn't leave my side. Like, he knew something was up. He knew, like, you know, I felt bad. That was another reason I was crying, because I felt like, oh my gosh, like, Bubby still needs so much of my attention, and what am I doing having another baby? Like, that's not fair to him, and I'm not done giving him, you know, all my attention. And that was really hard, I think, on both of us. And he was so mean to Christian. Like, he would throw things at him, and he would cry when I would pick up Christian, and I just always had to put Christian down, because obviously Christian's never going to remember that, but neither probably will Bubby. But Bubby was older, and I had to just give Bubby that attention whenever he wanted it, because, you know, Christian was usually asleep or crib. So whenever My advice is, I guess, whenever you feel like they do need that attention, or they're asking for attention, or they're hinting around that they need attention, just kind of drop what you're doing with the baby, because unless the baby just can't wait, obviously, but if the baby can wait and he's asleep, you know, just give that extra time to them. Next question from Liz, did you get the epidural and do you suggest it? I got the epidural with all 3 kids. With Ariel, I got the epidural really early. My intention was to go, because my mom was very anti, don't get the epidural. Originally was gonna go in and then see how much I could deal with, and then if I needed the epidural, I was gonna get it. But long story short, I ended up getting the epidural very early. I was in labor for like 17 hours probably with her. And so by the time I was about to get a C-section, and I remember my doctor leaning over and saying, "You do not want a C-section. Push this baby out. You got it." And I was like, all right. So I just, you know, I don't know what I did, but like one more push and she was out. But I felt everything. Like, I'm talking, I felt knees and I felt elbows and I felt every single tear. This is very like TMI, but I'm sure there's all women watching anyways. I felt every single tear. I felt the stitching. I felt everything. When I had Bubby, I got the epidural and I thought I was gonna feel the same thing, so I was a little bit scared, like, oh shoot. But I guess I didn't get it too early, like the epidural, and within like 3 pushes, Bubby was out. And then Christian was like, boop, sneeze, he was out. And I just became a pro after that. To answer your question, do I suggest it? I don't so much suggest it, but if you just can't stand the pain, then get it. I don't think it's this huge deal like some women, you know, make it seem like, oh, I didn't get an epidural with my kids, you can do it. Like, if you need the epidural, then get the epidural. If you don't need it and you're just, you know, I know women that didn't get it, like, do it. You know what I mean? Don't feel forced to do like either or. Like, do whatever your body is telling you to do at the time. Question, were you scared? This could go a lot of different ways. Scared with Ariel, scared with Bubby and Christian, not so much. How did your water break? All 3 times I went into labor. So the thing with me is that my doctor always has told me when I had Ariel that I have a something about my uterus, I don't know. Pretty much like my body wants to go into early labor without trying to, kind of thing. I can say that I had sex all 3 times, not trying to go into labor, although I think Bubby, I tried. My 8th month, like, I would kind of tell Robert, like, okay, no more, because any little time we had like intercourse, I just knew, okay, I'm about to have a trip to the hospital and we're gonna have this baby. So that actually happened with Christian, I think at 7 months. Bubby and Christian, actually, I had 2 scares. Like, I think we had intercourse and then it just set my contractions off and I just started contracting like really crazy, and I had to spend like 2 days in the hospital with Bubby and Christian because my body was trying to go into labor and obviously it wasn't time. So yeah, so I have a very sensitive like uterus. I don't know how that doctor would say, just no more sex pretty much. But try telling my husband no sex. Oh, this one's from Anai. Did you eat how you wanted, or did you limit your carbs? Also, did you wear a girdle? I'm always trying to add more calories to what I eat because my metabolism is just very, very fast, and I think it's just genetics. I know my mom was the same way, so I think as I get older, maybe it'll slow down. I don't know. So as far as I never, that I can remember, I never watched like my calorie intake after I had my kids. Honestly, I was going through so much postpartum after Bubby and Christian that my calories were like the last thing I was worried about. I think I was just trying to eat to survive at that point, and I was so happy to eat because I couldn't eat throughout my pregnancy. Like, I would throw everything up. So it was never, it never was like a, you know, something I stressed about, because I just knew how my body was, honestly. And I knew, as for the girdle, I did wear a girdle all 3 times. I immediately put it on, like, I think in the hospital, or like the day after, 2 days after I had the kids. And I would wear it for like a few hours a time at a day. And then when it would start like bothering me, or, you know, because it's obviously hard to like sit down and be comfortable, and I would breastfeed, so I'd wear it as long as I could to tighten up my skin. I knew that that's something that I did want to take care of. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Like I said in the beginning, I was nervous to talk about. I probably missed some stuff too that I wanted to talk about, because I feel like there's just so much, and honestly I can make like 3 videos probably about postpartum. I hope this video was very helpful to whoever's watching. With that being said, I'm gonna leave off here, and I hope you guys enjoyed this long chit chat. I hope it wasn't too, you know, chit-chatty and boring. I just hope I, you know, addressed what I needed to address. So I hope you guys like this video. If you are loving the content and you like, you know, what I'm putting out there, please give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you are new, and also press the notification button so you'll get notified every single time I make a video. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. All right, so I thought I would, oh my gosh. So I thought I would leave off this video on a good, happy, positive note and introduce you guys to 2 of my babies. My Christian is actually already asleep because it's pretty late at nighttime when I made this video, so he's already out. But as you can tell, Bubby is, oh my goodness. He's a character, you guys. Like, he don't stop. Like, this is him all day long. This is Ariel Ponce. This is my 9-year-old baby girl. Shh, you're being so loud. Hey, can you say, hi guys, I'm Bubby.
Hi guys, I'm Bubby.
Alright guys, well that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, like I said. And yeah, we'll see you guys in our next video.